let's see here. Let me make sure I got, and I really hope that this does not sound robotic when I play it back. Okay, so first and second, I don't know if I told you that my cat was acting weird, and when I came home in my off period on third, he can't walk correctly, so I had to take him into the vet to have some tests run today. Hopefully he'll be fine and he doesn't have to have any surgery, just like a steroid shot. I don't know, I'm not a vet. That's why I'm taking him in tomorrow. God forbid I have to put him down. I probably will not be there Wednesday. Hopefully it will not come to that. Yesterday, we did just the water cycle, and most of you should have been fairly familiar with most of the phrases that we talked about. Today, we're going to talk about the differences between surface water and groundwater specifically, how they move back and forth with each other, how they react with each other within the water cycle itself. So yesterday should have been pretty simple, and my dogs are fighting each other. Patty and Ina, enough. We're going to sort of delve into individual parts of the cycle within the next few days. And you may have heard some of the terms that I'm going to use. I mentioned some of them yesterday. I'm about to scream at my dogs. Dogs, hey. And they're just running into the wall. Okay, so for today's opener, it says how much of the Earth's water is fresh, and then how much of that is liquid. Of water, okay, approximately 70% is salt. Of the 30% that is fresh, most of that is frozen. So of our water on Earth as a whole, only about 1% of our water is liquid and fresh. And we have to take care of all of our irrigation, drinking, cleaning, all of that stuff with literally 1% of Earth's water supply. Oh, these are not animated. Let me fix that really quickly. Uh-oh, I made a boo-boo. 1 second, let me fix it. As you guys get to see how I animate when I'm trying to do this off the cuff, and I am not at school for near on an hour before you show up. Hopefully I'm not going to miss any. Nowhere near the pictures today as there was yesterday. Sorry, this only take me a second. Abby, please don't stop start barking. Dude, just go lay down. Sorry, okay, there we go. Okay, go back to this. All right, so most of, that actually does not look right. Fact check myself real quick. No, that's right, 3%. So I said that wrong in the opener. Only 3% of the total is fresh, but of that, very little is liquid. So I just said that wrong in the opener. I apologize. Let me go back to the right slide. So correct myself for the opener, not 33%. Most of our water is salt. Okay, it's ocean or sea water. The difference between the oceans and the seas is that the oceans are interconnected and seas are essentially saltwater lakes. We had an interesting conversation in 7th period about that today or yesterday for you guys, since now it's tomorrow when you're hearing this. But most of the water that's fresh is actually locked in ice. Okay, so it's glaciers, it's snow, it's permafrost, it's not accessible. And as a whole, only about 1% of our Earth's water supply is available in the liquid state, whether that be streams, rivers, lakes, things that are not salt water. And they're found both on the surface, surface water, and they're found under the surface, which is groundwater. They're very inventive. Abby, if you start barking, I'm going to throw you outside. Hey, stop. Sit. That did not. You sat. You're a good girl. But like I said, that 1% of all of the water on our planet is necessary to somehow be spread out for things like cooking, cleaning, personal hygiene, industry, which is actually where a huge chunk of it goes for our country. And about a seventh of the world's population doesn't have access to fresh water at all, at least not potable water, which just means you can drink it, like not portable, potable, like it can be used for consumption purposes and not make you sick. So most of our runoff, which was a word that we talked about yesterday when we were talking about the water that accumulates, would be found in streams, brooks, creeks, rivers, river systems, lakes. Like I said, a sea is not fresh water. A sea is just a lake that has salt content in it. And obviously, we're going to have, yesterday, we started with evaporation. And then it condensed. And when there was enough condensed in the clouds, then it has to fall off in some way, shape, or form of precipitation. Rain, we just had snow. We're about to have another freeze, but I don't think we're supposed to have any precipitation with it. Whether that's tonight or tomorrow, it's about to get cold again. And keep in mind, water does go from higher elevation to lower elevation. Eventually, most of it is going to end up in some way, shape, or form towards the oceans. There are some holding reservoirs, or really aquifers, the better phrase for me to use there, that water might get to and then evaporate and start to cycle over before it hits the ocean again. Dogs? Legit. You guys are calm all the time until I have to do something. Go lay down. Stinky dogs. If the water is on the surface, it's runoff. Okay, if it percolates down through sediment, through pebbles, through rock, through whatever it is that's on the ground, then that's what turns into groundwater. Let's see, I think there's 3 on here. I didn't bring my cheat sheet from home, so I don't, if I go forward and backwards, I apologize. If the water infiltrates the ground, like actually seeps into the ground, then it's going to eventually be held in between the particles of the ground itself. Now, the point at which you hit saturation is called the water table. So at that point, any deeper that you go is going to be saturated with water, depending on the space of the pores in between the rocks or the pieces of dirt, whatever it is that's at that level within the crust of the earth. This is now officially groundwater. Surface water, once again, stays on the surface. And like I said, the water table is sort of the boundary between sediment above it, which is dry, and at the table and below, which is now saturated with water. The question is, do we have access to be able to retrieve said water from that water table? And do we have the ability to treat it to make sure there's not any bacteria or heavy metals or pollution or other toxins that are in it? You do not want to drink water that has not been treated unless you enjoy sitting on the toilet for long periods of time. Your surface or your overflow, your overland flow, it might be that the rain is coming down too quickly to be able to absorb. It might be that the ground is already saturated and it can't hold anymore. This could be flooding, could just be a heavy rain. But eventually your water is going to follow a path. Okay, that is called a channel. It's just what it's called. A stream follows a channel. Your smaller bodies of water, people call them brooks, they call them creeks. If you're from the Northeast like me, you might call them a creek. It's just a local way that I was taught how to pronounce it. I know it's not spelled C-R-I-C-K, but that's the way that we Yankees learned how to say it, at least from my neck of the woods. Over enough time, that stream is going to erode the sediment that's within its channel, and it can make it deeper or wider depending on the gradient that the stream is going down. The gradient is how steep the change in elevation is. And when it's steeper, a river tends to cut deeper. If it's not as steep, if it's more of a gradual decline, then the river tends to go wider. I'm pretty sure we do that on Thursday when I do stream gradients. And they tend to go in an easy to cut path, which would be a weakness within the actual bedrock itself. I mean, obviously, it doesn't have to be bedrock. It's going to cut through sediment. Bedrock is igneous. Well, it could be metamorphic too, so that's technically not a truth. But normally, it's going to cut through the dirt, through the sedimentary rock, until it can't cut through anymore, which would be granite or bedrock, or in the case of most of our country, limestone. Okay, tributaries. I mentioned this word a couple times yesterday. A smaller stream is going to feed into a larger stream or river or flowing body of water, not a lake, okay, not a sea. The smaller streams that contribute to the system are called tributaries. They pay tribute, they give, and they add to the larger system. So we've got our smaller ones, brooks, creeks, or cricks, whatever, I don't care. Then those sort of graduate to streams, and then streams get larger and they sort of graduate to rivers, and then a bunch of rivers together would be a river system. And for our country, the largest one in the center, going from north to south, would be the Mississippi. Yes, we have other river systems besides that. You're going to have essentially a watershed that is drained by this system. And I have a picture, I'm pretty sure it's on today's notes, a picture of a watershed from Mars, which there's not a lot of liquid water on Mars now. It's seasonal, it's very shallow, it's also very salty. But it almost looks like a network of nerves. And then eventually they all feed into one larger river, which drains off into the ocean. Well, the ultimate goal is to drain off into an ocean. You're going to have separations of watersheds by the ridge line of, it could be a mountain range, which separates them. And either side of said spine of the ridge will drain off into different basins. If you ever go over the continental divide, there are a few lakes. I know one of them is in, is it Yellowstone or Teton? The only known lake that actually goes to both the Atlantic and the Pacific Ocean. It's literally on the Great Divide, which is the big spine that goes down the Rocky Mountains. Oh, I think my child just came home. Baby, I'm recording for my class, okay? You're trying to be quiet? Yeah, good luck with that one. There's a bunch on this one. I'll wait for just a second. I did not put a lot of pictures in today's. I should have put a picture of a floodplain in here, and I did not. When y'all decide it's time to move and get your house, you sort of want to not move into a floodplain. Not that it's guaranteed to flood, but there's a higher chance of it flooding for like hurricanes or major storms or dams break or who knows what. And your insurance is quite a bit higher. And if you're in a floodplain and you have a mortgage, you are forced to buy flood insurance. You do not have an option. Just for your information as y'all figure that stuff out in your life. All right, a gradient is how quickly in elevation over length, like distance, you're going to have for your stream. Obviously, the steeper that decline. Are you going back outside to play, hon? Don't let the dogs out. And okay. The steeper the gradient, the faster the river is going to go. The more water that has to travel through a channel that has a smaller area for it to go is going to force the water to go faster as well. I don't think I showed you the formula to calculate a gradient until Thursday. I don't know if I'm actually going to ask you to do that or not, as I've not made your test. I do not think that's actually on the assignment. But your flow of a river is calculated by how much actual volume of water, so a cubic meter or a cubic foot. I've seen both of them, depending on if your metric system or not, that goes past a specific point in a specific time period. Normally it's per second, okay, but that's not always the case. Rocks, dirt, silt, logs, leaves, all the stuff that gets carried down with the water load is a stream load. Eventually, they're going to deposit things as far downstream as possible, and those things are called deltas. That's where your stream is going to meet your body of water, whether it be the ocean or lake. You can check on my dog. You know, if you need to go pee, buddy, I'll pick you up and put you. Where is he? Oh, you're here. What's wrong with you, buddies? Oh, Newton, what's wrong with you? Stinky cat? Oh, gracious me. All right, let's see. Sorry, I had to go check on something. I've got that kitty cat that can't jump over the gate. I do not want pee-pee on my couch. Cat pee stinks. All right, so eventually, when you have water that's infiltrating the ground, it's going through the pores to become groundwater, it hits a point where there's no place left to go, and it's going to pool. Okay, these are called aquifers if they are natural. Okay, if they're man-made, they are called reservoirs. That's the only difference. They still hold bodies of water that then normally, especially in the case of a reservoir, are going to be utilized for some type of human use. Your water table can go up and down depending on if it's a rainy season or not. Some places have, ooh, I never pulled this off the computer. Okay, that's weird. Some places have more reliable precipitation than others. I don't know if I should have just pulled that off the computer, but I did. Okay. You have some areas that are much more arid, like the deserts of Arizona. You have other areas that get much more reliable water towards the coast, where I moved from. It rains almost every single day. Florida, if you ever visit, it rains in the summer every day at 2. It just does, like clockwork. Those particular, groundwater systems tend to have a more reliable supply, and they're creeks, they're smaller flows of water tend to not go dry. What is it, cat? What? Okay. Sorry, my cat's talking. So like I said, aquifers store, like if you think of rocks together, they're not going to completely cement up next to each other. I'm not talking about like the dirt and stuff in between the rocks, just like a bunch of pebbles. You're going to have spaces in between the rocks. That's where the water is stored within an aquifer. The more porous, okay, the bigger the space, the bigger the pores, the more water can actually be held within the aquifer. I just said that bottom one. You're not going to have to calculate porosity. The percentage that's, you're not going to actually physically calculate any of that. I did not go that far into it, at least not this year. Like I said before, you guys have the easy year that's, no, don't eat the plastic, dude. I don't need you getting sick too. And you guys have, don't step on the computer. You just said a bad word. Like, really? I had my camera on. You could just see this giant cat stomp on my computer. Sit. Sit. Good boy. All right, let's see. Permeability. How quickly, over a period of time, how well does the water actually go from the surface underneath within the aquifer? And if it has a higher permeability, that just means that your spaces between the rocks are larger. And it's easier for the water to go from higher elevation to lower. Dude, sit. Good boy. if the aquifer is reliable, it's going to have both high levels of porosity and permeability. Let's see. I'm sorry if I am going too fast, just pause it and go back. I'm trying not to. I just don't have you guys to watch to see if you're typing or writing. How quickly aquifers refill is called recharge. The zones that do that are called recharge zones. Not every point above an aquifer is going to replenish the water as quickly as others. So your quickest refilling area, I guess is the right way to call it, would be your best recharge zone. Now, groundwater and surface water interchange with each other. If groundwater comes up to the surface, it's a discharge zone. So if you're charging the aquifer, it's going into the ground. That's recharge. If you're not, like you're removing water from the aquifer, then that is discharge. And you're going to have areas where both of this happen. I'm pretty sure I don't show you that picture until Thursday, because all of these notes in this section are intertangled or intertwined, I think is the right word. I don't grammar good. And as you're moving between surface and groundwater, you've got filtration going on, which can remove impurities. Do not step on my computer, dude. Stay over there. You can remove impurities. You can also pick up different minerals, different elements, especially things like calcium, which I've mentioned before. If you don't have enough of that, then you, at least in your blood, I'm not talking about your bones, then you can have a heart attack and die. Dude, if you stomp on my computer, I'm going to throw you. Stop it. This cat will leave me alone until I have to, there you go. Good boy, lay down. Sorry if you can hear him purring. He's right next to the computer. For us, okay, I'm speaking about the United States. I did not have the time to look up other countries. I just don't. But your average house, now this is house. This is not industry. This is just us. This is homes. About half of your water that you use is the washing machine, showers or baths if you bathe, dishwasher, and sanitation, flushing the toilet. Okay. Above that, about 3% is used for like sprinkler systems, or if you have a garden like me, like I just watered it, doing that, or if you've got landscaping, that kind of thing. And so that means, let's see, that's 50, 83, so give or take 17%, which is what's left over, is used for other household use. I need to make sure I did not make a boo-boo on your assignment, because I think I just put that number wrong. Check it. Dude. Sorry, my cat is a motorboat. Where's the question for this? Here we go. Here we go, this one. So that's 17% is what is then, let me double check and make sure, because I had a wrong answer. So 50 and 33 is 83. So that means, okay, so for drinking, cooking, and washing hands, which basically is, I'm answering one of the questions on the assignment, what is left over, that 17%, is what is used for other daily activities. Now, if you're talking about just as a country, okay, not houses, just as a country, almost half, okay, 40% of the fresh water is just used for like farming, like crops, animals. It's for industry and agriculture. Okay, so that means that 60% of the fresh water is used for our homes. Well, actually, that's not true either, because I have another section. If it was 60%, of that, 50% is used for doing your normal cleaning activities. 33% of that would be for yards, and that 17% would be for everything else. Yeah, That's what I thought, because I knew that this tied over to the next one and I couldn't remember because I did these notes before. So 40% of our water is used for agriculture. 45% is used for industry. So that's what? 15% of the water used in our country is used for personal home use. Of that, there's the 50, the 33, and the 17% breakdown. Don't worry, I'm not going to make you like calculate it from a whole. I'm just not going to do that to you. We have been tied to rivers for a very long time. We did not figure out plumbing until fairly recently. Yes, I know the Romans had it sort of a little bit. They went crazy. We have been tied to lakes for the obvious water for agriculture, but specifically for transport. Before we had cars, before we had things like bicycles, before we had airplanes, I can speak. Before we had airplanes, your primary road system was actually the streams, the river, well, stream, not so much, the river system. And for those of us that go boating, I still need to go get my kayaks. I've not done that yet. So, like I've mentioned before, this 6 weeks is more the environmental, not that I'm against environmental regulations, I'm not, but more of the how do we preserve the things that we have so that we do not run out. Fresh water is a very important commodity. As our population grows, we have more people that need that same 1% of fresh water. So we have to have new ways to sanitize, to process, to collect. There's like 7.6 billion people, give or take. You can fact check me. I know it's not perfect, but give or take 7.6 billion people on this planet. And so approximately 1/7 of our world's population does not have access to essentially tap water. They might be getting it out of a river that they're also using for sanitation, that they're also using for cleaning. I can't remember the name of the river in India that's so horribly polluted. It's not the Ganges. I'm having a brain fart. But there's plastic and trash and just algae blooms, and they use that same river for everything, and people get dysentery and cholera and all different kinds of things that we just don't have in this country because of sanitation. So what we're trying to do is find new ways to process the water, to remove impurities, toxins, pollutants, bacteria, things that would essentially make you sick. So if you drank it, you'd have diarrhea and vomit, then you drink more and you'd have more diarrhea and vomit. So we're trying to figure out how to stop that. I'm sure there's all different kinds of programs that are done through missionaries and just through just trying to help people out that don't have the infrastructure that this country has. So I know I went through this pretty quick because you guys weren't there to slow me down. I'm really hoping that I am back tomorrow, that my cat's neurological problems are easily solved. I hope. And I'll be back Wednesday. In other words, I may not be back till Thursday or Friday. I don't know. Dude, you're going to put your fluff inside my computer and make it die. Dude. So that's it for today. Please go back and double check the assignment from yesterday on the water cycle. That was short and sweet. This one was fairly short and sweet. So was tomorrow's. Thursday's not so much. I don't think there's anything else I have to tell you. I'm sure most of you did not have to deal with the 9th grade English test. Possibly some of you Thursday for the 10th grade English test. But if you're not here, then we'll deal with it as we need to.